Alright, let's go ahead and plant some more flowers. Let's see, 2 sunflowers, 3 buttercups, and... wait a minute.
You plant them, I'll pick
'em. Get out of here, Fuzzy!
Take that, Fuzzy!
Okay, I gotta figure this out somehow. 1 4 3 8 and 1/2. Ah, this diagram is so freaking cryptic, it doesn't make any sense! Dang it, Fuzzy, buzz off!
That'll teach you to mess with innocent flowers!
Alright, so according to what I'm seeing, everything doesn't seem to make any logical sense considering what I have to work with here. Not to mention that while playing this on the machine as old as Windows 98, I've never once ran into some hiccups. Yeah, something's not right. Well, turns out something wasn't right. Unfortunately, this is one of those games that suffer from bits of inconsistencies on a more modern OS, no matter what compatibility options you set. At least with what I've got as far as modern hardware. So either it could be that, or a bad install. Great. What is edutainment? Well, for those who don't know, well, either your teacher sucked back then, or you probably should have stayed in school. In any case though, I'll give you a rundown. As you all know, education is an all-important factor of human civilization. Sure, it may get boring sometimes, but do keep in mind that if you do not get educated, then chances are you'll end up like this guy, or this guy, or maybe even this guy.
We'll do it live! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live! F***ing thing sucks!
So, game developers found the way into providing kids some entertainment within their games, while providing some adequate educational value, thus the term, edutainment. Games like Jumpstart, the Super Solver series, and Super Munchers. Yes, these are the fine examples of edutainment that defined our childhood and taught us so many things. So today, I'm going to step within Powerpuff territory and take a look at the edutainment games released for the series, and those being the Powerpuff Girls Learning Challenges. Starting off with Mojo Jojo's Clone Zone, developed by the Learning Company and published by Global Software Publishing Limited in 2002 for Windows and Macintosh computers. As you may all know, the Powerpuff Girls became a successful series starting in 1998 and became widely popular in a short amount of time. And the spirit still lives on to this day. It wasn't until about 4 years since the series' official debut that the Learning Company decided to cash in on the franchise and develop their edutainment games for young children who need to keep up to speed on their education, all while enjoying the adventures with the Powerpuff Girls themselves. Insert the CD into the optical disc drive and you'll be greeted with an autoplay menu, provided that you already installed the game. Here you can look at the user's guide, a preview to the Powerpuff Girls movie, which is pretty cool by the way, and the demo of Scooby-Doo Case Number 1, The Glowing Bugman. Click on play and you'll then be greeted with our beloved narrator of the series and be prompted to enter your names, so be sure to make the best of it, while hearing the narrator spell out the letters for you.
M G U Y.
Anyways, once you launch the game, you're greeted with a storyline. The plot here is that in the city of Townsville, it's the same old peaceful community. Day after day after day after day. The same bed making, the same teeth brushing, the same homework, and the same thinking about evil plans. Over and over and over and over.
That's it!
Up until Mojo Jojo himself comes up with an ingenious evil plan, which may be the same thing over and over and Okay, maybe not what I had in mind. Yes, with all of Mojo's evil clone robots, it would ensure that it would stop at nothing so that Mojo will hopefully take over Townsville, and of course...
the world! Of course!
But as the Powerpuff Girls find out about the situation on the news on TV, it is now up to them to stop these evil clones one by one, with some assistance from the professor, and stop Mojo Jojo before it's all too late. And it's from here where you're dropped right into the Utonium family's living room, with full control of the mouse. You have 4 different activities in which you can play in order to progress throughout the story. Though I should point out that in order to get through the last and final activity, you'll need at least 20 memory chips of each color, which we will get to later. There is also some point-and-click interactivity in order to amuse yourself for a few seconds. Granted, there's not as much of those compared to something like the humongous games. Along the bottom of the screen, you have the Powerpuff hotline in which you can open to access the menu. Here you can take a look at how many chips you've collected, how many Powerpuff points you accumulated, which serves no real purpose, check the projector for tutorials, seek the professor for help, configure game options, and quit the game. Access the options menu and you're given options to adjust the music volume, change the danger level, check your progress reports, toggle the printer, and watch the credits. The danger level indicates the difficulty for each activity. You can adjust the level to whatever suits your learning desires. There's also an auto-leveling feature, which automatically increases the danger level after a few problems solved successfully. For instance, if you start at level 1 and manage to get the idea for each subject, that level increases until you're at the highest danger level. The progress report is pretty much what you'd expect. It basically tells you how good you are and how much you suck at each level of difficulty for each activity. Granted, compared to a typical report card, this only ranges from a check mark, to a patch award, to a trophy, so chances are you probably won't know much if you're looking for exact numbers. Now, each activity teaches different subjects, and we'll get to those as we move on to the activities themselves. Before you can start playing each activity at first, you'll be greeted with a cutscene, and then a tutorial that'll explain the details for each activity. Now, while I can let Professor Utonium here explain the gist of them, I think it would be more relevant for the review if I explain this to you myself. First up, we have Skyscraper Chaser, which covers the basics of mathematics. Mojo Jojo's evil clones are hopping from satellite to satellite, causing all of the communications to go haywire, and it's up to Blossom to stop them. The objective here is to trap every clone in a particular spot by activating the satellite dishes. You're given an equation at the top of the screen, and it's your job to solve the equation properly by hopscotching to the correct satellite using the arrow keys. Once you feel that this is the correct answer, you can use the spacebar to activate that satellite. If you're correct, you'll hear a chime congratulating you, and the satellite security system will activate, which will behave as an obstacle to the clone. Once you corner the robot clone, let him have it. Once you do, you'll be able to collect your first memory chip of the game. Professor Utonium here will explain to you on how the memory chips will progress you throughout the game, but it's best to save the gist for later for the sake of this review. Though I'll tell you that, as mentioned before, at least 20 of each colored memory chips, which are purple, blue, and green, will guarantee you access to the last and final activity. Though just in case, I'd recommend at least 30, and you'll see why later. Anyways, back to Skyscraper Chaser. The lower danger levels teach addition and subtraction, as the higher ones teach multiplication and division. As the danger level increases, there will be some cases where you'll need more than one number to solve the equation, so choose whichever is relevant for it. If you're not satisfied with the satellite you've activated, you can always deactivate the satellite and go for another one. It is essential in trapping the clone in record time. Eventually you'll be facing more than one clone and the equation will get more complex, so be sure to think it over carefully in order to succeed. Next up is Letterbugs, which covers phonics and spelling. Mojo's clones in the Gang Green Gang are taking advantage of the city dump and dumping trash all over the place, and it's up to Bubbles to clean them up with the help of the street sweeper, which you think would be a 12-gauge revolver shotgun, but no, it's a vehicle that sweeps trash from the streets, that's driven by none other than the talking dog. You're given a set of empty spaces in which you need to spell a word that the talking dog tells you. The clone will drop bits of goo that'll contain each letter, and it's your job to catch the right letter and place it in the appropriate space. If you need to hear the word again, you can click on the talking dog and he'll repeat the word for you. If you're not satisfied with the spelling, you can always move the letter to the more appropriate spot, or dispose of it on the ground. Once you get the word correct, the street sweeper will clean up the remains of the garbage outside of the dump. Getting at least 2 words correct will trash the clone into the dump and award you a memory chip. On the lower difficulties, the talking dog will tell you the sound of each letter as you grab them in air, which will give you a better understanding for each letter. As the difficulty increases, you'll be given a set of 2 letters joined together. Eventually, words will get more complex, and the talking dog will refrain from explaining to you the sound of each letter. But once you get the gist of this, you'll be able to clean up the streets of Townsville in no time. Next up is Zap the Map, which covers planning and using directions. Mojo's clones are taking advantage of the sewers and screwing up the water supply, and it's up to Buttercup to stop these clones from wreaking havoc in there, and from giving us unhealthy water, or worse. You're given a map which covers each square that represents a mile. Your objective is to make your way to the Mojo clone and stop him right on his tracks. First, you'll need to decide how to approach this. On the left side of the screen, you have a compass which indicates the directions, north, south, east, and west, the number of miles below it, and a planner to fill in the appropriate path plan. Once you think you know the exact path, fill in the planner with the direction you want Buttercup to move to, and then the number of miles you want her to go. You can fill up the 5 rows to plan your path. Get it correct, and you'll be able to beat down on the clone and get your memory chip, and then it's on to the next clone. As the difficulty increases, you'll be introduced with a set of construction zones, so you'll have to find your way around them because if you hit one of them, you'll have to start over. Eventually, you'll be granted to use intermediate directions to fly diagonally. The clones will be hiding on the ground, and you'll be restricted on what direction and how many miles you're allowed to go. Not to mention that the red lines won't be helping you to determine exactly how far you'll be going, so you'll need to do some critical thinking in order to progress any further. The second to last activity is from here to lair, which covers identifying geometric shapes. Along the way to the lair, Mojo's evil clones are trying everything they can to stop the Powerpuff Girls from reaching this lair. Fortunately, there are a specific series of rocks that contain Chemical X, which will give the girls a power boost, and it's up to them to use these X-filled rocks to reach Mojo's lair and end it once and for all. Along the left side of the screen, you have your supply of Chemical X, buttons to change your leader, and the current target shape that indicates the specific one that contains the power boost. It's your job to identify these shapes and collect them. Collect the right one and your power level will increase. Choose the wrong one and your power level will deplete. Lose all your power boosts and you'll have to start over. You can also use your laser beams to shoot the wrong shapes out of the sky by using your mouse. Though be sure that you're not shooting the correct shape as you'll need those, and use your lasers wisely as those will deplete your power boost. Also, the power level decreases slowly as you progress further. As the difficulty increases, identifying the shapes will get a bit more complex and you'll lose energy a bit quicker. At the highest level, you'll be introduced to symmetry shapes. In other words, a shape that can be folded properly so that both shapes match. So be sure to use critical thinking in order to make it through in one piece. Once you reach Mojo's lair, you'll be jumped right into the final activity, Codebreaker, which covers reading and vocabulary. It is now up to the girls to break the codes within his security system by revealing his interesting secrets to weaken his force field. You know, I kinda wonder what they could actually be, but we'll find out as we talk further about this activity. Along the top of the screen, you have a set of code words in which you need to solve. First and foremost, as mentioned before, you'll need to have enough memory chips for each color in order to complete this fully. If not, well then you suck and you should probably go back and gather more of those memory chips. But if you have, then let's continue on. First, you'll need to pull the red lever so that the purple, blue, and green chips join together to create a word. Along the middle, you have a set of monkey computers which will transform a word in a special way. For instance, a beginning sound, a vowel sound, and an ending sound. You'll need to use those in order to transform these words into the appropriate word, so that it matches the code word itself. Do be warned that if you transform a word too many times, it'll break and disappear. So choose and transform your words wisely. If you get it right, then it's on to the next word. Match all 4 code words, and the computer screen at the top will expand, granting you access to one of Mojo's embarrassing secrets. Though to figure it out, you'll have to take these code words and drag and drop them into the appropriate spaces of the paragraph. Make sure that the words fit perfectly in each space. Once you've successfully completed the paragraph, the secret will be revealed and Mojo's shields will get weaker. Then it'll be on to the next set of code words and more secrets to be revealed. As the difficulty increases, you'll have multiple words to work with, changing the words at least 2 times as required, and you'll be introduced to synonyms and antonyms, suffixes and prefixes, verb tense, and plurals. Eventually, each computer's operation will be hidden from the player, so you'll need to use trial and error in order to progress even further. And try to figure out what word best fits with one of these code words above, and then experiment with the other words to see what each computer does. If you mess up, then chances are you'll have to start over. Now I'd like to take a moment to check out the possible secrets about Mojo that we've revealed so far.
No, this is too cruel!
Did you know that Mojo loves to clean his house? He can mop the floor. He knows how to fix his sink. Sometimes he washes his rug with shampoo.
Bitches, I will never weaken.
Wow, Mojo.
Most people don't know that Mojo loves to clean his house. He can sweep the floor, but he doesn't know how to use a dustpan. So he sweeps the dust under his rug.
What is happening?
Mojo's Jojo used to have fleas living under his helmet. He tried scratching his head, but that just made it itch even more. So he covered his helmet with flea powder, but the fleas just moved to his feet.
Oh no.
Getting a little anxious there, Mojo?
Must keep calm. I must keep calm.
Unfortunately for him, Mojo's big brain is actually too big for his head. That's why he protects it with his helmet. But when he's positively sure that no one is around, he takes off his helmet and lets his brain stretch out.
Uh-oh.
The Powerpuff Girls once painted a really big heart on Mojo's observatory dome. It was the largest heart ever painted, and it took him all week to scrub it off. When he was finally done, his dome was the cleanest building in Townsville.
Not good. No, no more embarrassment.
Mojo needs to relax a little.
Also, one more thing to point out is that Bubbles' voice sounds out of place in this activity. Half the time it doesn't even sound like her.
Sometimes he washes his rug with shampoo.
Anyways, once the shield is penetrated, you'll have beaten the game and saved the day once again from Mojo Jojo.
Hey, you just beat Mojo Jojo! That's awesome! Now, do you want to keep playing? I bet you can learn some more super juicy secrets about him. Come on, you know you want to.
Yeah, since he put it that way, narrator. Perhaps later. For now, let's move on to the last of the two learning challenges, Princess Snorebucks, released in 2003. And as you can see here, it's pretty identical to the previous Powerpuff Edutainment title, though this time you have a selection of Powerpuff stuff to check out in the autoplay menu, including a poster, a preview of 'Twas a Fight Before Christmas, a music video, pictures to color, and a preview of the previous title, Clone Zone. The story for this game is that in the city of Townsville, all is peaceful, blah blah blah. But this time, the Powerpuffs have a special delivery at their front door, which appears to be a present from the mayor. Inside it, they find a pretty delicate and upscale music box. The girls admire the music box very well, hoping that they will have sweet dreams tonight, without even taking note of the freaking logo on the top of the box. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's obvious that Princess is up to something no good. But I guess the game would end rather quickly if they figured it out right away. Anyways, as bedtime approaches, the girls tuck in bed hoping for a peaceful good night's sleep, thanks to the music box. But just as the professor leaves the room and the lights out, the music box suddenly produces very nasty notes, causing the girls' dreams to turn into nightmares.
Whoa! Those dreams don't look so sweet.
Good grief, of all these nightmares they're having, I can imagine the possible abomination that will be playing from that music box.
Come dream with me tonight.
Whoa! Those dreams don't look so sweet.
Deep within the music box, we get a particular hint that is pretty dang obvious from the freaking beginning. Princess Snorebucks was behind this all along. Turns out that she used it to knock out the girls permanently, all while suffering from the nightmares, while Princess herself attempts to steal all the glory and become the hero of all Townsville. So, that leaves the girls unconscious for all of eternity. Will there ever be a way to save them from their eternal sleep, not to mention their nightmares? Well, that's where you as the player comes in, to enter their dreams, end their nightmares, and hopefully break the music box. Yeah, a person who had been selected at random and has the abilities of a Vulcan for some unknown reason. Although something similar was actually done in the show before, so I'll just let it slide. Anyways, from here, it's pretty much identical to the first edutainment title, only this time you're collecting wake-ups, in which at least 10 of each color are required to complete the music box, and all 5 activities cover different subjects. You also have a Spanish dictionary on the nightstand. And yes, you'll know right away that this game will teach you Spanish words, but we'll get to it as we get to it. First up on the activity list is Fuzzy Flower Fractions, which covers like and unlike fractions. Looks like Buttercup is having a nightmare about planting Bubbles' garden, which couldn't be that bad. Oh, but wait, Fuzzy's there to be sure that the flowers are as good as done, and it's up to Buttercup to keep the flowers well planted and away from vandalism. At the top of the screen, you're given a diagram of what specific fraction you need to construct. First, you'll need to determine the layout for the fraction from the notebook at the top left corner of the screen. Once you figure out what's appropriate for that fraction, click on it and Buttercup will begin to construct the garden with the right layout. Then afterwards, it's time to get planting. Choose the appropriate flower and place it on the garden. If you make a mistake, you can always dig it out using the shovel. Watch out though, Fuzzy will do what's ever necessary to ruin your garden.
You're 86th.
Good grief, Fuzzy. What do you have against one of the most gorgeous things of Mother Nature? Not to mention Bubbles' garden.
Darn them flowers! I just don't like them.
You just don't like them. Fuzzy, I would kindly advise you to go seek some counseling, like right now. Anyways, once you feel that you've planted the flowers accordingly, you can then proceed to water them. Get it right and the flowers will start to grow, and then it's on to the next diagram. Every 2 correct answers will earn you a wake up. As the difficulty increases, you'll be given a set of more than one fraction to work with, thus you'll be working with more than one flower. Eventually you'll come across a set of fractions with different denominators, so you'll need to find the common denominator in order to progress further on this. Next up is Roach Coach Reading, which covers constructing sentences. Ugh, looks like Blossom is having a nightmare about roaches, not to mention them ruining her diary thanks to the infamous Roach Coach. So it's up to her to fix up every page and hopefully not get grossed out as much by those little 8-legged insects. You're given a sentence with scrambled words that you'll need to fix up. To do so, you'll need to slide one of these words to the right spaces. Do keep in mind that the sentence has to start at the upper left square and has to be constructed as seen here. Be aware of the roaches as they will mess up your words, so be sure to use your ice breath to freeze them on out of here. Once you feel that the sentence is correct, you can proceed to click on the Chemical X bottle to freeze the entire page. I would guess that's to prevent the roaches from ever changing them again, and if that's the case, then I commend Blossom for providing the solution to all of life's problems. Anyways, as the difficulty increases, the sentences will get a bit more complex, so you'll have to think a bit more carefully to determine which words fit best in each sentence. Eventually, you'll be practically playing the equivalent of a slide puzzle, which can get a bit infuriating at times even if you already know the proper sentence. Yeah, you're gonna be here a while if you don't pay attention to the layout. Speaking of difficult, we have our next activity, Escapade en Español, which covers the Spanish vocabulary, which unfortunately is one of my weaker subjects. Looks like Bubbles is having a nightmare about squirrels not being fed their acorns, and the culprits behind this monstrosity are none other than the Gangrene Gang. So it's up to Bubbles to feed those poor squirrels their acorns by playing a game of Break the Piñatas. At the near bottom left corner of the screen, you're given a Spanish word. The objective is to figure out what specific thing, or in this case piñata, matches the meaning of the word itself. Now, unless you've really studied your Spanish vocabulary, this will most likely result in trial and error. Thankfully, Bubbles will help you identify what specific piñata means in Spanish, because we all know wholeheartedly that one of her special abilities is to speak Spanish.
El conejo. That means rabbit.
So anyways, decide which piñata you want to hit. If you're correct, an acorn will fall out of the piñata and one squirrel will be fed happy. You'll need to hit it 2 more times in order to fully feed a group of 3, and then it's on to the next Spanish word. The Gangrene Gang will ensure that you'll never break these piñatas open, so be sure that you hit them in the middle, or else it won't count. Once you've fed all the squirrels on screen, you'll be awarded a wake up. As the difficulty increases, the Spanish words will get a bit more complex, and eventually you'll be identifying what specific color of what specific piñata. Thankfully, as you progress in this activity, any Spanish word that you've successfully identified will be recorded in the Spanish dictionary, in which you can view via the Powerpuff Girls bedroom to study on. This will prove useful in the activity as well as later on in the game. Next up is music box matching, which covers music patterns and notation. Now, as mentioned before, at least 10 wake-ups of each of the 3 colors are required to proceed with this activity. Now, as the Powerpuff Girls themselves have reached the music box, it is now up to them to break the music box and set themselves free of their nightmares and their eternal sleep. Though, how does one even break a music box when... Wait, never mind. Similar concept. Anyways, the objective here is to match the music pattern as presented on the left side of the music sheet. First things first, you'll need to pull the red lever to transform your wake-ups into musical notes. Then you'll be able to use those notes to match the pattern on the sheet. You can listen to the presented pattern by pressing the play button. This will give you a better understanding of what it sounds like. Use the notes to match the pattern accordingly on the right side of the sheet. If you make a mistake, you can always move the note to another spot, or change it to a different color. Once you're satisfied with the pattern, hit the ready button, and the girls will proceed to sing along. Get it right, and then it's on to the next pattern. Now, there's one thing to address here, and that's the sound of each girl whenever music notes of the same color and the same column are used. Just listen.
La 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 la.
I don't know about you, but that's something that you don't hear every day. Anyways, as the difficulty increases, some notes will be hidden from view and then eventually most of them. So be sure to experiment and listen carefully to those notes. Once you pass through this activity and break the music box, you'll finally free the girls from their horrendous nightmares.
Hooray!
Oh, there you are, girls. It's about time you woke up. Townsville is a mess. Princess Morebucks is trying to be a superhero in your place, but she's doing a terrible job of it. The monsters are taking over.
Princess Snorebucks. She's the one who sent us that creepy music box.
Duh, you think? I mean, how could anybody miss that logo on the top of that music box? It's pretty dang obvious that Princess is 100% behind all of this monstrosity. Anyways, after you complete the music box, you'll be jumped right into the final activity. However, before we can proceed, let's go back to the music box for a bit, as we can now compose our own music. Yes, this is the part where a bit of creativity comes into play. Really, you can compose whatever suits your taste and choose whatever instrument you want to use, whether it be a piano, a horn, a guitar, or you can just have the Powerpuffs sing it along for you. Here are a couple of compositions that I've attempted myself.
Terrific tones. That sounded great.
All right.
Granted, the space that you're allowed to work with is rather limited, so if you're looking for such professional compositions, then this may be not for you. But otherwise, if you don't mind, then this is something to screw around with once in a while. And now, let's move on to the final activity of the game, Dynamic Damage Control, which covers problem solving and mapping. Now that the Powerpuffs are wide awake, they've finally caught up with Princess Morebucks and this hideous mess that she left behind. All of the monsters are now wreaking havoc in Townsville, and it's now up to the girls to put a stop to this once and for all while teaching Morebucks an all-important lesson in heroics. It's pretty much a basic top-down arcade game as you roam about the streets taking down any monsters in the city, all while repairing the damage done by the monsters themselves. Now, you'll need to determine which Powerpuff Girl will be best for each monster, same goes for the damage done by them. You can use the arrow keys to move the girls, control the switch between the three, and spacebar to use your superpower. If you use the correct power for each monster and damage done by them, you'll be able to get the job done superbly. There are also traffic lights in which you may think they don't serve any purpose, but actually do. If you come across a red light, you're presented with a series of questions that you'll have to answer in order to proceed. These range from questions based on what you're taught in this game, to trivia questions. Yes, surprisingly, this is one of those games in which you are given a series of questions based on the events from the show. If you lack knowledge of these, well, then you suck, and you might want to shut off the game immediately and tend to your DVD collection or Netflix, and watch the entire series all over until you get the idea of the show. Anyways, as the difficulty increases, you'll be dealing with more monsters and damages done to the city, and the questions will get a bit more complex as you go. Now, a couple of things to address here is that the animation in this activity is rather limited. And the sound effects. They're pretty bad. Just listen. Anyways, once you complete this activity and rid of all the monsters in the city, you'll have beaten the game and saved Townsville once again from Princess. And that's pretty much the Powerpuff Girls Learning Challenges. For what they are, they do exactly as they're intended to do, to give kids an education while providing entertaining adventures. Now, while this wasn't one of those games that I've experienced back when I was in grade school, it would have been something to have fun with considering that the PPGs were one of my most favorite cartoons of all time ever since it came out. And it's pretty much easy to find on places like Amazon and eBay, so if you can find them for a few bucks, I pick them up. Not to mention that they're pretty much compatible with modern OSs later than XP. Though as far as Snorebucks is concerned, you may run into a bit of inconsistencies, although Clone Zone ran without problems thankfully. So you can try turning on compatibility mode for Snorebucks and hope for the best. Although if you do have a system as early as Windows 98 SE or as late as XP in store, you should be able to run these games flawlessly on those. But regardless, I would recommend these games to anyone who are looking for something for their kids to learn and enjoy, as well as PPG fans who need to brush up a bit on their education while saving the day. If you're interested in some more Powerpuff stuff, then why not check out one of my previous reviews, Defenders of Townsville. Or if you want a bit more edutainment and brush up on a bit on social studies, you can also check out my Let's Play on Ancient Empires. And if you want more of my content, then feel free to subscribe. You can also check me out on Twitter, DeviantArt, and Twitch. And as always, the day is saved once again. Thanks for watching. Now go do your homework.